Go. Welcome to the podcast. I am Dio, and this is DioTalk. I would like to present my guest today. His name is Benjamin Fontanez Jr. He is the founder and creator of Dark Minds Productions. Ben, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a long time coming.
Yep.
How you been?
Let's see. Well, judging by what's going to happen when this episode gets out, been doing whatever. Been working through what we went through with COVID. Been just trying to keep myself busy, trying to keep myself active, all that stuff.
That's what's up, brother. Keeping
Yep.
busy, keeping safe.
Yep, and just making sure, protecting myself the best I can and protecting my loved ones the best I can.
That's very important. That's same here, brother. Same here.
Yep.
So for our listeners, I want to explain a little bit of your background. He is an actor and a writer. This man, he may not seem intimidating, but he's a hell of an actor. He is very talented. Back in, was it 15, 16? We did a small trailer for Batman Cacophony, a fan film regarding Kevin Smith's famous comic book. And he played the Joker, which it was a hell of a Joker.
Thank you for saying those nice comments as always. I mean, but you definitely were working on that trailer we did. I mean, you played Batman, you played Deadshot, you played Onomatopoeia. I'm pretty sure you played something else, but you basically were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, playing all these characters.
I produce heavily. And
yeah,
and at that time, I recently became unemployed. I produce heavily in editing equipment, costumes, shit, even the catering.
I mean, I do recall around that time frame, it was you and the person we were working with primarily. You were the one that was basically telling him to get off his ass and start doing stuff. You keep talking all this stuff. Just do it. So you were kind of the pushing force and saying, do it like this, do it like that. I mean, as a producer, you were the one that made things happen.
Yeah, but I can't. I'm not gonna take full credit of it.
No. I mean, again, it's just out of.
But I'll take full credit of seeking you for the role, because first of all, you were not going to start as a Joker. You were going to start as Zane.
Actually, Zeus. No, really?
Zane.
Zaz.
There you go. I'm butchering the name.
Yeah.
And,
it's yeah.
And yeah, man. We did a very distinctive, which it came out awesome. The scene in where you have all the gauzes.
that was yeah.
And I fought for that. I literally got angry, like physical confrontation. I fought for that. And that was when the compliments I received from the trailer itself, and I say, hey, I did this. They just the Joker at the end, they loved it.
Yeah, well, it was honestly such an amazing experience and a collaborative effort. I mean, even looking back at that, the fact that I think it was 4 night shoots spread out, where it was literally from I think when it got dark, and the two places we shot was actually the building I was originally living at, where we had the roof that had New York City.
Yes, you were the property scouter, so it was a team effort.
Yeah, and then the basement level, which I gotta say, I honestly had it was so much fun that we found this mesh type of gate, and we used that as the cell door for the Joker. I'm like, man, this actually is coming out quite nicely. So it's great when spontaneity actually comes into play with stuff like that. But again, from my end, people were very receptive of all the things about the
mine as well. I went to Tennessee.
Really?
Yes, I went to Tennessee. Excuse me. I think a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go travel to places, before I leave, I like to go to comic book stores. So I went to I think it's Rick or Ricky's Comics, something like that. I have a sticker, and we, basically start talking, boom, boom, and I was like, "Have you seen the Kevin Smith fan film trailer for Batman Cacophony?" And the guy was like, "Have I seen it? It's amazing. It's like generally amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." Dude, he's like, "What?" He was like, "This what?" Like he got like, when you see somebody famous and you get shocked,
Really?
that's how he got.
Oh wow.
Um, but it was definitely an experience.
Yeah.
I wish things could have ended up a different path,
Yeah.
but I'm glad it took a turn because I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be starting my own company, which is Stream Inspire Attain,
Yep.
doing everything I'm doing, and yeah, man, moving forward.
Essentially, just like anything else, one door closes, another one opens, and you take what you can as learning experiences. I mean, that's life, and you just excel more.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a bunch of questions for you,
Okay.
sir.
All right,
Uh,
sir.
yes, this episode is dedicated to you and to you only.
Oh boy.
This
Okay.
is where all your efforts and my admiration for you are going to come in reality for me.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, Benjamin is an actor. So, I want to know, you know, at what point, at what age were you like, yeah, this is what I want to do?
I will definitely say it was seventh grade. I was, I think, 13, and this was after I think I did a second play because I did two plays. One was in fifth grade. This one was in seventh. It was Beauty and the Beast, and I wound up getting the role I actually wanted, which was Cogsworth, because that one was all full of humor. I mean, Beast, there was already somebody there who was going to get it.
Yeah.
Gaston was another person. Lumiere, I was like, oh, but it requires singing. I don't like to sing, whatever. So I had fun. And I'm not trying to, basically gloat or say anything, but I will say that when it came to applause from my grade level, because we did two shows for the school, we did everyone from the lower levels to, I'm going to say, third or fourth grade, and then fourth grade upwards. So I would say I was probably out of the cast of 20-ish kids who were doing that play. I would say I was probably like the fourth loudest that they clapped for, because the first was the guy who played Beast and the guy who played Gaston,
Yeah, the
Belle,
main characters.
yeah, and then myself. And that's just because everyone was like, okay, he was over the top. I just remember there was like this young, I think she was like a second grade girl who was playing like the dog character. She went out, I went out, and it literally was like, oh God, they literally were clapping so loud. So I was like, oh wow, this is actually a good feeling. But what happened after that, really, no, because we only were able to do one show, which, was amazing. It was a lot of fun. Um, I talked to, weirdly enough, my drama club teacher, who I just reconnected with on Facebook, which I found so weird because, it's always been like you're surprised that, you connect with people back then or whatever.
Yeah.
And he brought up the play, which I was like surprised. Like, oh, I was going through old stuff and I found the video. I just want to know what you were doing. The thing I really can't stand is the fact I cannot remember his exact words of what those encouraging me to go for it. Because that's the thing. It was a function for school. I think it was like a little carnival or something. But he pulled me aside saying, I saw the video, I just want to tell you, I think the gist of it was, you generally have something. And I see you were passionate about what you did and that you really committed to it. And it even went back to when I did my first play, which was like a weird rendition of Wizard of Oz, where we were doing that dare thing where you tried to tell kids not to do drugs and whatnot. And I recalled even then, I took that seriously. Like they gave me the role of the wizard because back then I had a high pitched voice for being a kid, but I was able to shift it very much of a deep voice. So they were like, oh yeah. And I was going through my lines, making sure my voice was okay. And I'm like, yeah, I am definitely passionate. So he was like, just go for it, just hone your skills, teach yourself, commit, and you can do great things. Like to that extent, I'm pretty sure he wasn't being as cliche, but
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, I was like, all right, I guess I can give this a shot. Why not? So after that, it pretty much was just, theater here, going for trying some things there, some things falling through. But the general gist of was, that was the catalyst, trying something I liked, I really liked it. And then someone said, I honestly think you can go for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly think you'll go for it right now. I think if you commit to it and put work in anything, I think you'll come far. I mean, I've always told you that.
Yeah. It's not that I would often say no. I mean, I could if we're going to go down like what has happened like within the last several years or whatever. It's a combination of many things, but life kind of
Yeah,
promises
it
things.
takes. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but believe me, and people I still talk to occasionally. Like one of the people that commented on the Batman thing has asked me routinely like, "Oh, you doing stuff or what's going on?" We always thought this. Like, listen, it's not that I don't want to. It's there's always complications, and believe me,
yeah.
I can get into stuff later about that, but it's very encouraging and very thoughtful that people honestly say, we believe in you and we honestly think you have something and you can do great things. And you know what? I never lost my passion for that. You would figure that if things like if someone just, oh my God, I'm rejected and they think this, or oh, this didn't pan through, you would lose it. And but for me, it's like, no, I mean, people say this and I'm still passionate about it and it's still been there after all these years. So believe me, it most likely is going to take a lot to really dissuade me to the point of thinking, well, I guess I got to walk away now. It's like, no, I mean, it's a slow process right now, but I'm still going for it.
Definitely. Especially, I mean, ever since COVID hits, things have become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I can say, as of we're talking right now, there's a couple things that were primarily happening in the pipeline before everything with COVID that happened, and it primarily was going to probably be things YouTube related and small scale related, like shorts and skits and all that. Again, at the time of this, we'll see what comes about it, and you'll probably see updates and whatever. But it's always just been more self-producing of stuff, not.
Yeah, I this right here, this podcast, has been in the making for 4 years, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like you said, shit happens in life.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just interject if you don't mind. It's when you mentioned about the thing with the cacophony trailer. I showed that to one person who's a massive, he's a fanboy of all this stuff, and I did tell him what we originally want to do. Things didn't pan out. His response was, "That dude, you got as far as producing that and doing the things you did. That's impressive in its own regard." So, and he even was like, at that point, you two managed to do that. You can do anything. So,
Yeah, that's actually what led me here. Just like shit happens, and what me would have taken me so long, because Mike's recording laptop, whatever it needs. I've always been a person I never wanted to do it alone. But what happens that every time from producing, writing comics, anything, just doing this right now, uh, I'm not sure if people didn't believe in me or just people didn't have the willingness and discipline to actually achieve something. And
I would also like to say, like, there's also that facet that, people will, and I will say I'm guilty of it myself. Some people will kind of say or try to lend themselves, but they'll have a hard time committing to things,
yeah,
thinking like obviously with stuff in life, but all other than that, it's like, well, I just lost an interest, or oh, we'll get to it eventually, and that is always a hindrance on stuff
yeah.
like that.
So I've came to realize that, and I just um for the last year before COVID hit, I just was a t-shirt printing business. I um I said I basically said fuck it, I'm doing myself. You
Yep.
know, luckily with the t-shirt printing business, I have my partner, which is my wife. You know, and then the brand and the production, which is Dream Inspire Obtain, just all me. It's all me, and I'm being very aggressive and trying to reach out to people and do this, because the goal, as I ever, if you remember me telling you, the goal of me making this is to create a platform for people like you who
Yeah.
have dreams, who have talent, who, not everybody looks like fucking Tom Cruise or fucking Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
and it can be sometimes discouraging. And there's actually people like you that have talent. And I want to become that voice for those people who don't have the voice. I want to be a culture shock in my community. And I just want I want to see people progress.
And I think that's what people like you could be, like that, a voice in that support system, to kind of vocate that, because you have people who are influencers out there who will promote or will say, why don't you check this person out, or take a look at this, or think about this. That does happen, and all it takes is just a bit of imagination and creativity, and sometimes that's all you can need with just a little bit of luck.
Yeah, everything I'm doing, all this, the audio version of the podcast, the video version of the podcast. I had my good friend Gene, Earthling Gene. He's a Twitch player. He's my friend from way back in Barrio days, and he's telling me, "Oh, you got to download this software and this software and this software, and this and that, and makes everything complicated." But yeah, I just fucking downloaded Zoom, and it records, and I could when it finished recording, and detaches video and audio, and everything. Sometimes things are simple,
Yeah, and we're now, with what you're doing with the podcast and with obviously with what we were able to achieve, resources like this are readily accessible. I mean, you can even look at, say, an iPhone that has all the capabilities as some of the most advanced equipment that even people in Hollywood manage to use. I think there's a film out there that a director shot it specifically with an iPhone. So
yeah. I've actually heard they've win actual awards filming with an iPhone.
Yep. So
it's out there. It's just sometimes we stay stuck and procrastinating, bro.
Believe me,
Overthinking.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm blessed to have my wife, and if I had to say one negative thing about my wife is that, excuse me, she tends to overthink everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I do a post right, and my grammar's not correct, and she sees it and she criticizes it, and I'm like, "It's fuck it." You know why? Because we live in a world that everybody wants to show you they drive a fucking Maserati, but nobody wants to show you what they had to work and do to get there.
Yep.
And I think that's unfair, because you're basically showing all the highlights, and you're selling a dream that's it's not that easy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because it's just the glamour and the idea of, like, all this luxury that's there, and people probably look at, like, the whole journey aspect and the struggle as kind of just an afterthought, when it's like, no, I mean, I'll even kind of just jump in to say, like, one reason's a lot of my personal stuff, which about a lot of my stuff all the years. It's because I'm probably the worst when it comes to procrastinating. I always had this thing of, like, oh, it has to be perfect, or this idea doesn't flow, when I'm trying much more now, get to a point where I'm like, you know what? That is the point of making these things. You get the idea there. Yeah. Take that pen, you just scribble whatever the hell it is, and you work through it. You fine tune it.
How do you know if it's perfect if you never got there?
Exactly.
Like editing. Fucking, I've never edited before. How do I know if it's perfect if I've never actually tried it? I have to create something, and after it's created, then take a step back and look at my creation, right? And then now, okay, next time I should do this. or maybe I should cut this and put this on and attach it,
Yeah.
and slowly you become almost a perfectionist, but now you know what it takes to the product or the object to look perfect. You
Yep.
have to do it.
Yeah, that's practice again. Old-fashioned saying, practice makes perfect.
There you go. Boom.
Yep. So
So let's talk about a little bit about your podcast. I'm intrigued. Dark Minds. What up with that?
okay, so technically speaking, just because it has been something it's primarily have always been a movie review podcast, and it's
Okay.
called Movie Confessions. It would technically be a Dark Mind production of itself. It's something that I've done with my good friend John T. Camille over the years, and that's just started because so many people came to us, like from family and friends, about, oh, what's our opinions of movies. We're like, well, why don't we just do a review thing and just go at it, because we can get pretty heated in our discussions about films. But the podcast, we decided to say, we'll do that, but you know what, let's have fun with it. Like, he puts on a character where it's over the top, and he'll go like fanboy ranting, saying that's not how you do things. You do things like this, and you do it like that. I got to be the one to be like, okay, let's calm down. I'm the one that brings a lot of the intellect and a lot of the the points of like, okay, A, B, C. He'll bring a lot of the fine-tuned fanboy stuff when it comes to a lot of stuff. I mean, he knows his shit too, and we've done a couple discussions here and there about like, oh, well, this casting is this. Why do we feel about this? As of now, we are trying to get it back into the mold. It's just, again, things kind of got in the way, and we kind of lost a little bit of passion for doing it, just because, a lot of the movies we would see, or a lot of things we would talk about when it comes to like television or something, we wouldn't feel as passionate about it as we used to when we talked about it. And, we don't necessarily want to put something out there that's like, very bland in sense of conversation, or just bringing up things. You generally want to have that vigor of saying, well, when we looked at this and then we find this, if we're just doing it just for the sake of doing it, you could definitely sense it, even if it's just audio. Like, these guys just probably don't care anymore.
Yeah. So what is it? You guys take, like, what is it? You critique one movie each episode, or just you have certain topics? Like, this episode we're gonna talk about this, this, and this, or is it just one episode about one?
We did a couple ones where it was probably two films at once, and it was probably because they were either on demand, and that was the only way to watch them. And ones would be just say, I saw something, and he would jump in to ask me the questions, and it would be points of like, okay, so how do we feel about the actors, or what do we think about the production, or what kind of movie is this? Is this like something that's like awards contender where it's about meaning and thought, or is this like a fun movie? One I can think of off my head was, we spoke fondly of that Hitman's Bodyguard movie with Sam Jackson and Ryan Reynolds, and we're like, this is meant to be popcorn, not meant to be taken seriously. This is how you enjoy a freaking B movie in that sense.
They say they're gonna come out with part 2.
I think they filmed it. They were just about to release it this year, but oh no, COVID. Oh my God. Yeah. So,
I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was fun. I love, when you have Samuel L. Jackson is like, motherfucker here. I love it. When you have Ryan Reynolds humor, I love it. Deadpool. So
yeah, and again, one of the points that I think we brought up was like, oh, again, you have movies that are trying to sell it. Their chemistry, the fact that they know how to do these type of roles. Him being Reynolds being Mr. Improv person, and Jackson being Mr. Motherfucker, and just being the badass that he is. That's chemistry right there, and I think that's what sold it. So stuff like that. I think we did talk. I'm trying to remember what was one show we talked about. We were again, depending on how we do this, because it was originally planned that we were going to talk about Mandalorian, because John knows practically everything Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, massive sci-fi person. So I was going to be in as the neutral person coming in to talk about like, okay, this is what I see, this, and that. Time of recording, again, hopefully we'll get back to the fray, and we watched the entire season next season, and I'll be getting to watch things like Clone Wars and Rebels, because that is the one thing him and about two other Star Wars people get on my case of, how could you watch Mandalorian and not watch that stuff? Are you really a fan? Like, I was just under the impression those were, and I'm doing the air quotes here, people, cartoons, and they didn't really mean anything. But then they just gave me that whole like blasphemous, how could you? But you put the time in to watch stuff like that, you get deeper thought. But in regards to the podcast, I think we did talk maybe once about a video game thing, and we tried to spin out to another video game thing, but it was primarily him because he had the means to actually buy video games,
All
whereas
right, so like when I want to have I want to have a podcast episode with the Dark Minds. When can we make this happen?
I will get to him as my next earliest convenience to see what
I
he.
want you guys to be on my podcast, and I want to be on yours. I want this. I want this to happen. I'm intrigued. I'm
Okay.
intrigued.
See, it's see this people. I mean, he being Mr. Persuasive individual. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna be hard to convince my co-podcast partner about this. It's just okay. What we can generally talk about, and hopefully it not getting too overzealous with our nerdy nature, because while Dio, being the individual he is, he can tend to get a bit nerdy himself about stuff. So let's just bear in mind. I mean, this is a man who definitely knows his things. He's definitely professional. But
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm just saying, like,
That's fine.
amongst
Listen, I just, you know
out
what
of
it
the
is.
three of us,
I enjoy. I enjoy when I'm speaking to people that are passionate about something.
yeah. I mean,
It's enjoyable to be around that atmosphere and see how the human, as me watching somebody else just almost dissect them, like how everything is moving in their mind and just how it makes them feel. It's fucking orgasmic. I enjoy that. Watching a human at its best and being happy. And this is what we're all about, man. Especially in this pandemic we're in, bro. Like, you can have fucking $500,000 dollars in the bank and don't mean shit.
yeah.
We're in the moment. We live in a moment that you could be rich and don't mean shit.
Yep.
You could die tomorrow, literally.
And unless you got more to your meaning in life or things you're passionate about, kaput. So to answer that, we'll touch base with him, because I generally want to get us going with it, get the episodes going, because figure, okay, we produce the content, and then we'll do.
Well, just come on my podcast. Come on my podcast. We'll run it as brainstorm. That's it. And hopefully it'll motivate. It'll give you that energy, that juice to do it. I mean, baby steps.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just because it's been a while since right now since I talked to him. But like I said, at the time of recording, things will most definitely, like 99.9%, be in the pipe works that this will happen. That 0.1 will probably be the usual procrastinate. Like, I'm just joking, but procrastination nonsense. But this, as of time, it is in the works. Let's leave it like that.
So how's have you been writing lately? Have you had anything new?
Yes and no. I say yes because it's primarily just ideas to get to writing. The main issue has always been my current job, and that is just because it is a very, very stressful and very physically demanding job. I work, for the United States Postal Service, and there are times where.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Well, you're welcome. Believe me, with everything that's been going on and all the other nonsense that's going on, it's just, I'm just happy to at least have income coming in and help out however I can. And that's one reason why, things have been stagnant with my getting things going.
Definitely. So let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
Hypothetically speaking, right? Let's take a moment and just think about it, hypothetically speaking. What would it take for you to sit down and write something from start to finish? It doesn't mean have to be a perfect product. Just, what will it take for you to move in your gears to your dream?
Well, I would honestly say that as of right now, for me to really just get something done is just a free time, honestly. And I say that because literally right now it's the busiest season, and trying to get something done after coming home, cleaning up, eating. I'm going to do something. I knocked that, and I have to go do it again and again. And that's one thing that is the procrastinating nature of all put it off tomorrow things. Like I feel so out of it and so tired. And that's how it's always been, unfortunately, for the several years I've been employed. It just drains you so much that, you lose that luster. So, and believe me, even with years before that, when I wasn't even doing something that's physically demanding, it was always like, well, I'll do it, whatever. But now that it's like, well, I'm now gathering the resources. I now have at least people like, yourself. Do recall, you've offered, okay, well, just let me see your stuff and I'll give you points here and there. Now I got people who are ultimately saying, okay, you bounce ideas off me or listen to me. All right, that'll be helpful, because most of the time I was just doing this stuff for myself. At least now I can get another perspective. That's just kind of the one thing. And that's why, at least with right now, or whatever happens when this episode goes up, more will definitely happen, because by then I will have equipment, my own personal backing, and just hopefully more support, because people have been vocal by saying, let us know. We'll come through, help you however we can. Because that's always been another issue. And I'll just to touch on it real quick. I don't want to eat too much time.
We got time.
I know. Yeah, again, I don't want to detract from anything else you got planned.
Don't worry about it.
It's been,
like I said, this episode is dedicated for you.
Okay, well, it's just always been the whole, like, you get people, and you have experienced it yourself. Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get this, and sometimes it never pans out. So it's like you're kind of stuck. Like, okay, then how else can I move forward, or what should I do? I mean, if this didn't work out, what do I do? Do I do something else? Do I try picking it up? And then at that point, you're just like, I don't know. So, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, well, I'm trying to do all this myself. I'm trying to write and do what I can with limited means, limited resources, try to produce a product that is, hopefully, just as with my creativity and my writing, that's just kind of been a thing. Like I will say I shifted gears originally from trying to do all certain things, where I've been just funnily on one thing. At least right now, until when we get going, it's just writing the scripts. Because I figured, okay, if there's one thing I can try to do, at least let me get scripts on the ground, see if I can try selling them. After that, if I can produce something on the side, that's great. Trying to build my portfolio, the CV, just say, okay, I can do this, I produce this, all this stuff. That is kind of just where I'm at.
That's a lot.
I know, and you personally told me, like, just focus on one thing, man. You're overwhelming yourself, and that's why it's like, okay, that is what I'm trying to do right now. Funnel one task as of right now.
Which is?
Okay, well, right now, as it stands, firstly, just getting through the holidays so that now I can have my freed up time. Because one thing that has happened with the whole job is they do often around this time period need you to come in on your days off. And my days off tend to rotate. My only legit day off has always been Sundays. And then it's always, it's the one day and then Tuesday and then Wednesday. And the travel is another killer, because as of now, from my job to my house, it's between 40 minutes to an hour drive on top of working all the hours. So that's one reason I get so tired a lot of time with all the driving, on top of all the driving I do delivering things and all this stuff in a truck. So but as of recording and whatnot, it's I would say I'll give people a little bit of taste. It's like a Tarantino-esque crime short that just revolves around people of shady backgrounds come together, talking nonsense about certain things. A little bit of dark humor, talking shop, and then probably ends on a shocking note. And that I'll just leave it like that.
That sounds awesome. I mean, shit. I would like to produce that.
Well, we'll talk. I'll get more discussion with you, because I do want to talk to you about something else. But
okay.
Again, it's kind of
we'll do it after off.
Yeah,
we'll talk about.
Yeah, that's why. Because after we're done. So
yeah.
But
yes, everything you're saying, it's valid, man. It's not easy. I've had people. One of my good friends, John, he's going through a divorce. He lost almost 95% of his business because of COVID. And my love and heart goes out to that man, because he's hustling. Nothing but respect to him. But it's not easy. You get what I'm saying? It's not easy. Since the last time we spoke, everything has changed. I have a small printing T-shirt business. I've had Dream Inspire Retain for quite some time now. Um, it's not easy, man. And I speak of, my experience because I'm a husband, I'm a father, I have a house to maintain. And this time that we've been dealing with this COVID and um, like I was working a full-time job. I was an operation manager.
Yeah.
I was making 65,000 a year. I got laid off. Then I got another job, same position, a little less money. Left for XY reason. But in all that transition, I was starting my t-shirt printing business, small.
Yeah.
As each year has passed by, it has progressed, and I've been doing this. And this time that I left and I'm doing this, it just helped me focus on what makes me happy and what do I want to do. I'm trying to monetize this shit. I'm trying to do anything possible, read and research, because I don't want to go back to work to anybody else.
Yep.
I want to work for myself. I want to wake up early as hell and get the day, get the day the most out of the day. I want to spend time with my wife. I want to spend time with my son, and I want to do this. See, I like this, and if me and you, for a very long time, I've always talked about what I wanted to do, is which try to set up a platform for an individual like us,
Yep.
and give a helping hand, because it is difficult. And this time that I have been out, I'm taking advantage of it, brother.
Yep.
I guess the best advice I could give you is you have to put yourself first. You have to be, whether it's 1 page a day, which is a paragraph. You want to be happy. You want your passion and your dreams and your talent to show them. You have to find a way. Every time you take a shit in the bathroom, write something down. Like I remember when I used to work at Summit Security Services, and I was standing 8 hours in the fucking path, and the freezing, because it was fucking cold down there in those tunnels.
Yep.
I had a little pad, which I have like a box around here, with a bunch of stories, comic book stories that I wanted to write, and ideas for this and that. I just wrote them down, and one day I took them out and started reading them. All in good time, they are going to come true, because now I know what I want. It's been a long journey, but I've taken the time, take an hour a day or half an hour, and wrote things down. I have to put myself first. And you have a career. Fuck that. You have a career. You work with the United States of America. You're a postal service.
Yeah.
But that hunger you have, that talent, that vision, you see yourself in that particular character and your production, that 9 to 5 is not feeding it.
Mm-mm.
So unfortunately, I'm not saying leave your job.
Yeah.
I'm saying, how bad do you want it? I'm not even saying I'm asking, how bad do you want it? You have to take time and invest in yourself, brother.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, for anybody, whoever's listening, just reading a fucking book, one book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, a fucking book will change your life. Reading one book will give you discipline, meaning if it's 300 pages, you're disciplined enough to at least read one chapter a night. And you got the stuff, brother. And it ain't easy, but how bad do you want it?
It's been something I've been. Yeah. I'm just saying. It's.
And the day, I don't even cut you off, but I just want to end it with this. And this day that has transpired, I think I've emailed 50 people. I'm not gonna lie. From those 50 people, only one person emailed me back to be on the show, which hopefully on Friday, which today's what, Monday. Hopefully on Friday, he'll be joining me, and that's all it takes. Like, well, we'll talk after the podcast.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I hear you, man. And, just to see the dream inspire, obtain, it's something that should always be reinforced when you're pursuing the things you want in life. And as we always reiterated from this episode, it's like, yeah, things hinder you and you get discouraged, and that's going to happen. Things are going to not fall through. Things are going to fall through the cracks. Things are not going to turn out the best you want. You just got to keep the hunger alive. You got to keep the pursuits alive, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail, and that's the learning experience. You get
And
stronger.
not
You get.
even that, Ben. I mean, I remember when we worked at Galaxy Towers, East Gothenburg, that hellhole.
No.
I was the first one who judged you and made fun of you, and I feel so guilty because you're an amazing fucking person. You're an amazing fucking person, and you have an amazing fucking talent.
I will say this. I didn't take it too personally because you were friends with my brother-in-law, who, let's face it, we both know what type of person.
I love you, Two-Tone.
Yeah, we know. You know who he is, so it's like, okay, obviously, this is the type of person he would know, which I've known people like that in my life, but, knowing you, who you are, and working with you, and obviously being friends with you, it's like, okay, again, more to meets the eye type of thing, so. But
I get you.
Yeah, so at that point, if there's anything to leave on, folks, I mean, just, it's as anything, just go for it. You're not going to know unless you go for it.
Exactly. So I'm going to go for this question right now.
Go.
So your family, it's into mixed martial arts?
Yes.
I've known you for quite some time now, years already. Do you know martial arts?
Not to the degree that one would think. It would probably be just enough to maybe defend myself because it's been so many years. But let's just say when I was doing it, I really didn't strive to really want to do it. I did it just to try to be active and be with family. But when it came to martial arts, and again, it's just because I didn't know what to expect. I always had this thing of like, oh my God, what if I get hit? And how do I react when I get hit? Whereas like at this point, I have been hit before, and it's like, okay, it's gonna happen, it's gonna hurt. You just gotta stand up and take it. But the fact that it's like, oh, but what if I suck? What if I can defend myself? But generally speaking, if I had the means and the time and the money, I would love to pursue it again, and this time really be committed to it. Just because from watching so much different things, from like martial arts day documentaries, or even like as much UFC as me and say my sisters watch, or even the movies we see, it's like, wow, there's like so many different styles, there's so many different things you can do. I think the one that always was something that was generally a lot of fun to really learn about was jiu-jitsu. And I think one that I've always actually been fascinated with was Krav Maga, which is essentially counterattack, if I'm not mistaken. So
it's great because those are two mixed martial arts that I want to learn. I just can't afford it. It's gone overly popular that everybody's fucking doing it.
It's gone commercial, which is like, it's hard to find one that it's like more smaller based where you can, be more into, where instead of like, say the Taekwondo stuff, which I did as a kid, it's like, yeah, they run to school, they try to learn them. It's like the belt system, whereas the martial arts that, I did with family was, which, they have their own studio still. They always wanted to focus on the individual person and earning, your belt levels. Like, I think I recall when my oldest sister and my dad earned their black belts, the sensei always made the fact like, you got these ones, now you just have to keep them. Like, you got to keep fighting for them, keep training yourself.
Yeah, it's like ongoing education.
Yep, and it never stops. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just right now it's always like money and just timing, because that takes commitment and whatnot. But definitely would love to just get back into that.
Everything's fucking money nowadays, bro. Everything.
Yep.
Everything. And fucking, it's not even worth the money. Like the rent has drastically gone up. And when you come to see where you're living at, it's like a shithole. It's fucked up.
Yeah, trust me, things are just as bad as they were originally going to be from the last several years.
So are you gonna invest in like HBO Max? Am I saying it right? HBO.
Yes, HBO Max, most likely, because I have someone who's willing to go 50-50 on me with it, because I already pay for Netflix. Someone I know has the Disney Plus. I know somebody else who gives us access to Hulu. And yes, HBO Max is something I'm going to invest in, especially with what they recently announced
What
at the time of the recording.
was it Wonder Woman?
Well, the recent news was the studio slate of movies that they originally were going to push for 2021, and we're going to release it on HBO Max. But if you have the option, you can go to the theaters and watch it as well, depending on how theaters are and COVID restrictions and whatever. So it's like, okay, so we have the option if we want to watch it on there. We'll see, because right now I think HBO Max has its primary library of things that they have, which is like say
They have
stuff
a
like
very good library. I'll tell you that much.
yeah, obviously a lot of the stuff that Warner Brothers, HBO Max owns is DC Comics. So a lot of the DC, if not almost all the DC stuff, is on there. And
Yeah,
then
I got I subscribed for a small time for DC Universe. Not a lot of shit. Waste of money.
yeah, I think John, the podcasting partner, he actually had that for a while, and he was primarily looking at the animated stuff. He was like, well, Titans was
Yeah.
this, and then Swamp Thing or whatever. But it's like, all right, well, we'll wait until HBO Max because they think that was its own thing. But
And
then
not
when
even
they
I think like Swamp Thing they moved it to like regular television.
oh, okay, so
To a CW as a regular show, and like
got
I
canceled
read
after one season.
something or I saw something that it actually killed the ratings. Like it went high.
Yeah, but then they
So
wound up canceling it. So
and it was a good show.
that's
It
good.
was it was very like horror, dramatic. It was a good
Well,
show.
well, I'll say this: the guy who did the Conjuring movies and Aquaman, he was the force, like a creative force behind it. So that makes sense as to why it was able to do what it did.
Yeah.
So
And then Disney Plus. I mean, they
well,
got me because they bought Fox 20th Century, which has a lot of fucking good movies.
yeah.
You know, a lot because when they first came out, I'm here like waiting for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and
Yeah.
Hawkeye and all these fucking shows, and it come with Jack.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do remember the whole thing of like, Disney was going to do all this, and that one reason they bought 20th Century was to get their Marvel characters back, and so they could do all more possibilities. And if they wanted to do things like Deadpool, which last I heard, yes, they are going to go full with Deadpool
Yes, I'm
3.
glad I'm glad they didn't fuck that up.
Well, I'm assuming, hopefully I'm wrong, is that they're trying to, Ryan Reynolds has always been a big person in the creative side of the two movies so far. So I do want to believe it. Maybe they're going to try to say, like, look, we're going to let you continue to be creative force. We just have a couple of stipulations. So,
But it doesn't work that way. You can't create Deadpool without a rated R.
which,
It's in.
yeah. And again, that's one, because I think they had like another Disney, I think had a label for like their films that were that, but now that they got Fox, it's like, okay, well, it's now 20th Century Studios. It's not Fox anymore because Fox is owned by a whole other thing. So it's 20th Century Studios. So they can now say, okay, well, we're going to do the R-rated stuff, and hey, here's Deadpool, and here's say if we
Yeah,
do Daredevil again, here's Daredevil again, or no,
which they're
not
trying to
Daredevil.
save, and I hope they succeed because Charlie Cox is the man.
Yep. I mean, uh, kind of jumping into it, I really want the rumor to be revealed that when the whole thing with the next Spider-Man film comes into play, maybe they could bring his character in as a lawyer or a type that tries to help Peter get through the whole fallout of his, identity being revealed. But, again, rumors and all this talk is like, come on, just give us fans a little something, man. Just
Yeah,
have,
man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't fucking. I'm still waiting for fucking Zack Snyder Justice League cut.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, give me what I want. Give me what I want. Don't give me no BS. Give me what I want.
Well, again, hopefully, because I don't know how much more they have to do at the time we got this doing, but hopefully, because yeah, it definitely is going to be in 2021, and it's going to be his version, and going forward, we don't know.
I've read something that they're thinking about making like a series, like limited series, like at least for the Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah, I think for that, I think for what, because I know they're still gonna do the Robert Pattinson Batman
That's
movie.
fine. It's totally badass.
Yeah. So, and I think with that, it might give everybody more free reign to kind of do the stuff they want to do that they will be limited to do if they release it in the conventional theater. So
Hmm.
that would be fine. We just got to make sure, like, okay, Snyder, do not disappoint. Like, I think between 300, Dawn of the Dead, and Watchmen, he did have his own director's cut versions. Oh, and Sucker Punch, and
Hmm.
those were always superior than the original cut. So if this is how Snyder does his thing, it's a superior cut, then of course hopefully we'll be getting more. I mean,
I think me personally, I think they should do that like Justice League, like a mini series, HBO Max exclusive, because he wants to do he wants to do a lot of shit. He wants to do Dark Seed. He wants to do, he wants to also get that Batman touch. He also wants to get the Clark Superman with the black suit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Is that's all he likes doing a lot of deep cuts. When I mean deep cuts, it's a lot of comic book. Like
yeah.
they criticize Batman versus Superman because something about Martha. Remember that?
Yeah, from what I can gather, it's like the fact that wow, they made a real emphasis on the connection and like that character flip of that. Like we could go on about that, but it's like it was something he tried to make a little bit more impactful. And again, I was surprised that their names were both Martha. Like, I guess I really don't pay attention like that at the
Yeah,
time.
I mean Kent,
So
Clark Kent, Mrs. Kent,
yeah, Martha Kent, Martha Wayne, that type of thing. So
and I'm for me, I think that shit was genius, in my opinion, right? Because you have two characters, one that grew up with family, and has family values, and you have another one that has a lot of fucking money, but it has
yeah,
no family,
yeah,
and they're both men that are influenced by their mother.
yeah.
So I think for me, I enjoyed every fucking bit of it. I'm gonna go flip.
Yeah, so it would be touches of that if knowing Snyder, especially with the teasers we've been getting of the Snyder cut. It's like if that comes in more prominently within the four parts of the Justice League, then yeah, I think fans and comic book aficionados will appreciate that. And
Did you see Endgame?
yes, I saw it the day it freaking came out at the first showing with with about 8 people.
Excuse me. How hard did you cry?
I I didn't cry necessarily. I freaking was screaming at the top of my lungs over all of the massive shit. Like, I could tell you, the one moment that I will always cherish is if you haven't seen Endgame, where the hell are you? You are missing out. You missed out. Obviously they're fighting Thanos at the final part, and they're getting their asses kicked essentially. And Thanos has Thor with the Stormbreaker about to really get him when Mjolnir
I
gets
popped. I
I
popped.
no, I literally my reaction was, okay, is that Cap? That has to be Cap. That has to be Cap. As soon as he throws it and we get Cap with that homie, so dude, oh, I literally jumped to my seat like,
Yeah.
I did not care. Every like people, essentially the people I was with, looking at me, it's like, I don't fucking care. I was fucking
I
going
love that,
nuts.
man. I
Yeah,
love
like,
that. I was
and
heartbroken when Tony Stark died, but
I will add this because the fact that I unfortunately got my younger sister into Marvel stuff. I don't know how, because I recall we did watch stuff before. We watched Iron Man when it came out. I think we watched Incredible Hulk when it came out, but it was only several years, like several years after that, when I think it was like basically after Age of Ultron or whatever, that she really just went all in with like just learning stuff of Marvel, watching the cartoons and reading up. Her favorite superhero happens to be Hawkeye. I
yeah,
I want to say
I've
the
seen it.
genesis. Yeah, well, I seen the genesis of it was because of the actor. She really likes Jeremy Renner and his take on the character, and then she invested herself in researching him.
He
And
sings. He could sing his ass off.
she has his music. I've heard his song.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it's surprising. I'll say this, that people are like, "Oh, he's just using his actor just to be a singer." I'm like, he was a musician before. It was one of the things
Hmm.
he did. But yeah, the thing about that is when we would talk about that, and we knew because I talk about movies with her a lot. She's not the movie buff I am. She's I would say novice in the sense of all the stuff I tell her. It's like, listen, there's only knowing the path, knowing how movies are, and knowing these characters. We were like, this whole thing has to end with either Cap or Tony dying. Like
Yes.
that's how those
You know,
characters.
if you go back, because I was watching it recently. If you go back to Age of Ultron, there's a scene. I think when the scene after Ultron attacked, when he first appeared in the beginning,
Yeah.
that Tony Stark is basically like, that's the end game. I was up there. That's the end game. And I was like, fuck, because now the last movie is titled The End Game.
Little side note. I don't know if anyone know about this, but the Black Panther song "All the Stars," they had to rewrite a lyric because of the fact they mentioned the end game, and they're like, no, take that out, find something else because that's gonna spoil it. But it's funny because of something like that, everyone speculated that's gonna be the title of the final film, End Game. So
Well,
again,
at first I was very skeptical because they were gonna break it in two parts, the ending, which is like Infinity Wars and then
End Game, yeah.
Endgame, and I was happy because they did the first one and it crushed you. Like some part of me and the superhero fan shit I was like depressed for the whole fucking year.
I will say
They made you they made you feel like you needed to. I need to go see. Because I can't. Like, I don't think nobody ever, like, after Endgames came out, I don't think people actually watch Infinity Wars because it's heartbreaking.
Well, just to jump in, the fact is they mentioned that it was leaked out. It was going to be two parts, and people were like, oh, now we got to do this. We don't really want to do two parts because I think before then, one of the only two parts, and I'm only bringing this loosely because I remember it. No, it was Harry Potter, and they justified that saying they didn't want to cut out a lot of the stuff from obviously the books. And people in movies who did that were basically like, oh well, we want to get more for our buck and keep people coming back. Whereas the same thing with Infinity War and Endgame, they had an idea or story set of what they wanted to tell. So they figured, okay, we're going to end it here, and then we're going to do this. Now, I will say this about Infinity War, because if you look at that, that was revolutionary because that basically was Thanos winning. When was the last time we had a superhero film where the villain actually won? It was essentially Thanos' movie. We had the Avengers, we had the Guardians, we had everybody.
It was a fucking build-up. It was about time he had his movie. It was a build-up throughout the years.
Pretty much. And again, we got who Thanos was, why he was doing this, like what made him the actual intimidating threat that they built him up towards. So
I have this shirt of Thanos, and like, and I'm only saying this because my wife,
oh boy,
my wife asked me it, and I'm like, I think everybody has a Thanos inside of them.
At this point, it's.
I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he was wrong for what he was snap.
Okay, so well, you finish your point because I got my point with that. So go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to look at it like that is the fact that if you remember from the reason in Infinity War, his planet was overpopulation, and he realized, this could happen across the universes, and you know what? I'm the only one who can do what has to be done. And he was that type of person that was like, you know what? I will do what I have to do. I will kill who I have to kill. I will, conquer whatever I have to conquer. But this has to be done to maintain the balance. So he had a philosophy. He had an ideal. That's what made him the villain he was. He wasn't just like, oh, I'm evil because I want to conquer things, this, and that. It was rooted in a philosophy and an ideology that was like, this is how balance and order all around has to be maintained. So that being said, yes, people can have those type of things where it's like, they see things as one way, but it might not mesh with everyone else the other way. It's how we are as humans. It's how we are as people. We try to see things good, but then we tend to think about the other side of like, well, what if it was like this or what if it was like that? So
yeah, I think there's always 2 points of views. I mean,
yep.
Is it Josh Brolin? Am I saying his name right?
That Josh Brolin, the actor, yes.
He did an amazing job.
Yeah.
just building up Thanos, because remember, you only saw clips at the end of the movie.
Yep.
You
And then
know,
the little section in Guardians where he was just there. So
yeah, they did amazing build up. Those was it Russo brothers
yeah, Russo
did an
brothers.
amazing job.
Yep. So
When I saw the last one,
oh.
I was heartbroken because
Well,
I'm a hardcore DC fan.
yeah,
You
like
know,
it's yeah,
but the thing is that when it comes to TV shows and animated movies, DC kills it.
yeah,
When it comes to actually making film, Marvel. Marvel has more structural plans. This is the plan for 10 years, and they stick with it. They stick with it. But Warner Brothers, these motherfuckers, just care about making the loot.
okay. So let's little discussion on that. The reason why Marvel was able to do the MCU prominently is because they only had one creative person at the forefront always, Kevin Feige. Feige did something that was not done on the level technically. I mean, you had people say like the Universal people with their monsters, and to Kevin Smith with the US universe, connecting things in that level. And he even said when people pointed out like, "Oh my God, he did the original cinematic universe thing." He said, "No, that's what comics always did. I just followed the comics." Feige was always a comic book person and was always the main producer on all these Marvel films. So he kept the consistency, the balance, and the stories pretty much as they were.
Yeah, the same people that same concept DC has, but like the people who making comic book TV shows are people comic book fan. That's why the Flash is so praised, because it's deep cuts. Um, Animated movies as well, but when it comes to movies, yeah,
They, yeah, because if you recall,
I think maybe either Tim Burton or Zack Snyder, I think, are the two people that have actually done comic book movies in this DC side, in my opinion, that actually been comic book fans.
I will reiterate
And I
on
could
that.
and I could be wrong. I'm
Yeah,
open to
well,
be
okay,
wrong.
okay, yeah, because I think yes, there's a consensus because their films have been stronger suited. Whereas for fanboys out there, if any fanboys listen now, Nolan, not necessarily a comic book person, always said, yeah, I know
Yeah.
he always liked Batman and the Dark Knight movies. Always are some of the greatest movies you can argue or debate, but he always made them what they were, which were crime thriller films. So he wanted to keep them
Yes.
grounded.
And that's what I love about fucking Batman. He's the fucking greatest detective.
Yeah.
Any
So
true fan knows that.
yeah.
But when it comes to, that's why, as being a comic book fan, of being a Batman fan, I was very skeptical when, like, I wanted to see a Justice League, but how did I want to see the Justice League? Because, like, if you look at the Justice League movie, when they throw kind of shade at Batman, it's like, he's a guy. You're saying all this methodological shit, and he's just a guy. He's just a man.
Yeah, like compared to everybody else who has the powers, what well again, this was Whedon who kind of did the cuts and whatnot. It's like what you had to present it as like why was essentially Batman supposed to be the de facto leader of the metahumans in that film? Why would they listen to him? It's
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, he's a detective, but he could have been a strategist. He could have been the one with the means to assemble and get all these together. So that's what it should have happened. It failed. So hopefully Snyder manages to retcon that by
Well,
saying,
they also try to make him more like, there's a scene where he's taking off his armor and his back is all bruised, and then Wonder Woman comes in. They try to make him more like, oh, you get what I'm saying? And he's not like
yeah,
that. He's not
nah.
like that.
I mean, we were technically, and I say this because it's like it's a point that they tried to get across with
Mm-hmm.
Affleck playing it. This was supposed to be the older, like the Dark Knight Returns Batman, where it's like he was past his prime, but it's like they did that, but it's like, but if you're gonna have
That scene was unnecessary. Like,
yeah,
and I don't mean to cut you off.
no,
That scene was unnecessary, because if you look at Frank Miller, Dark Knight, he's like a 6-year-old man that's just looking for a thrill. He's been
Yeah.
retired for fucking 10 plus years. It's fucking boring.
Yeah.
And it's just driving him crazy. He needs that. He needs that just one more time.
Yeah.
There's, like Tyson recently in his fight. I need just one more time. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's more grittier. It's poetic justice in a sense. And Batman versus Superman, you got that. Now this Justice League cut, nah, they try to. I like the humor, the funny. I like that because Batman can be funny.
Yeah.
Now when you're trying to make more humane and like no, Batman will fucking cross you in an instant. We've seen it throughout the comic books.
Yeah. So, and again, just going back to what we were just said when it came to Burton and Snyder. Burton never really was a comic book person. He just took it because he was kind of the one they approached. Like that's just being subjective. And I do remember that because Kevin Smith and Burton kind of had their feud. I don't know if it's still there. I guess they don't care anymore.
Was it Kevin Smith wasn't? I don't think it was. I think it was Superman because this is a documentary that came out. Is it Superman Lives? But they wanted Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but it's but just not to cut you off, but the point I'm making is the fact that I think during one of his like speaking engagements, he was talking about like, oh, I want to write a book, and the fact is that because I think in that speaking engagement there was like accusations that Burton lifted from Smith, and it's like Burton made a comment that was like, I would never read a comic book or something in regards even from something from Kevin Smith. And it's like, okay, I guess we know where Burton's attitude is towards that stuff because, Burton has a certain style and a certain film he made. So that's where I'm like, okay, so I think he respects the medium or the realm of comics enough that he'll give the best.
I think they just gave it to him because he has. If you look, I don't know now, but Tim Burton is like very dark.
Yeah,
he's very
there was that tone. That tone was perfect for what they wanted for Batman.
Yeah.
And if you see Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer, that is a Burton film where it's very, very morbid and dark. So that's a Burton version. Whereas the first one, that was like Burton on restraint. So
and like I think it received a lot of backlash because they talked about abortion, which is the Penguin being some type of abortion. The Penguin.
Well, no, but all I remember is like the parents were snotty, richy bastards, and they basically created an abomination of a kid, and they just abandoned him to the Penguins. So I'm like thinking, I mean, it's been so long since I've seen that. So
it was something. It was something like that. I read in the media.
Yeah. So, but I would say like when it comes to Warner Brothers,
Clooney's Batman, right?
Okay, we can laugh at that now because that definitely was studio interference in general. They had to sell toys. It was the director wanting to kind of just go as bombastic as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you have to look at that. But again, because I recall that they wanted to do what Feige was trying to do with Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. I figured that would be the launching pad, and people were more into the Dark Knight style than the campy nature with what they did with Green Lantern, which ironically enough was produced by the people who is doing Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and whatnot. Like their style was better suited for the TV sense. Like it could have probably worked, but people wanted Dark Knight. They wanted that grittiness there, so they weren't really up for that. And I think even then, people wanted Reynolds for Deadpool more than Hal Jordan.
Yeah, he wasn't a really good.
Even though I read, I read now that. Yeah, go ahead.
But it's difficult because there's different. You look at the comic books. There's different types of Hal Gordon. You got like if you look at the animation movie Justice League War, like Hal Gordon is like a funny, flirty, Ryan Reynolds. But then you look at the comic books, the series when they battle, I forgot the name, the Black the Black Lanterns.
Yeah.
He's more serious, more leader, more like we got to get this done type of shit. So it's like you got to present as one. I'd rather then break the barriers with Jon Stewart, which is like military. That is,
Yes.
he's always one. You know.
So, just to kind of jump into the whole thing of that, because that's one thing that I often discuss, with John and my sister when it comes to like the behind the scenes stuff from what I personally would think when it comes to movies like that. It's like, yeah, Reynolds, I think that there were other people approached and they figured, well, his personality people like, he could probably bring something to this. And Jon Stewart has been always a fan favorite, which I think when they do the next Green Lantern core, it's going to be him and Jordan. So it's like, that's a chance. It's just with the way things were back then. It was like, okay, how do we go about this? Because let's just jump into.
But how? But not to interrupt you, but Green Lantern sucked not because of
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that
It's
was just
because
like let's say that they tried to be like a Marvel film from what it was presented, but it just didn't mesh like with what they were trying to do.
yeah,
Let's just say
they did a first second Fantastic Four.
First, second Fantastic Four. Oh, okay. So I was trying to think of like, okay, I think I know where you're going with that.
Before Captain America became Captain America,
Yes,
it was Johnny Storm
Yep.
or Johnny Blaze. I have no idea.
No. Anyways, moving on, because I think at this point, anyone who knows. So, yeah, man. I mean, at this point, we're getting all this renaissance where we can now take these films seriously and whatnot. And I think when it came to Warner Brothers, they were just more focused on just doing that because they figured, okay, we will do that. And then, now we got Man of Steel, and then we can do what they do. And then obviously with Justice League, it was all about we got to do catch up. When it's like, that's not how it works. And now you look at Justice League and like, yeah, there's your failed expensive experiment right
there. If I'll tell you this much, if they would have stopped playing catch up and done, be patient and run the course, they'll probably would have end up making more movies, more storyline, right, and probably more longevity than the 10 years Marvel's had.
Even so, you look at like at least with the first Avengers and what they were able to do. I mean, you had from like say they released Iron Man 2008 to the Avengers in 2012. With the way Feige was able to coordinate and make sure the productions all ran smoothly, you had all those films lead with those characters and hint at the bigger picture with Avengers. If they kind of saw, okay, well, at least we have Batman, Superman, the tease with Wonder Woman, then hey, maybe Aquaman, and maybe we can tease the Flash a bit, and then if we could try to fit in Cyborg, then yeah, and then we can have the big
Cyborg movie was supposed to come out a long time ago, and the Flash and nothing. Their inconsistency is where it's what's killing them.
Well, like I said, hopefully they, from what we know, especially with what we're going to hopefully get with Snyder, and then obviously how that's going to move forward. I mean, it's just we got to see what their plan is, because that was another thing. It was never one central person like Kevin Feige. It was always a combination of different people. Like Snyder was supposed to be the main one, but then they decided to put other people involved, and now they have other people involved. So it's like it's just changing heads about who's running the show. So there isn't, as people said, there's no real Kevin Feige. It's always a committee, but it's like everyone's battling for, I guess, control of like what should be the best course, when it's like, you should have a plan at least as to what should be done.
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name. He's the head of like comic book publishing or something like that in DC.
What, he was involved with the movies or just
like in the new? No, not in the movies. In the new comic book.
Okay, yeah.
Recently, I can't. It was a while back, but somebody like him, and they need somebody like him that knows comics, but also has background experience with film. I don't think Snyder, if anything, he'll be like the vice president. I don't think he should have full extent of that, because at the end of this is a business.
Yes.
If my son was 15, yeah, I'll get him to, some gritty ass Batman. But you're also trying to sell.
Yeah.
You're trying to market.
Yeah.
And if they're gonna do like a rated R shit, like a whole plain plan out within the years and whatnot, rated R, sign me up. But you can't go dark and light, dark and gray. It's just imbalance.
Yeah.
You see the whole decade of Marvel, same color.
I will say this, because there was an example of kind of the counterbalance between the dark and the light, and that was with Wonder Woman, where the light elements was when she was on her home world, and it was like Amazons and all of like them being who they were. But then when she goes into the real world, she sees how dark, decrepit, and very like very bad it was. So it's like you can have like a balance like that, but it has to be organic and fit. So
Or just be real. Marvel, DC is dark. It's magic, demonic, all this shit. Gods. Keep it what it is.
yeah,
Don't keep it what it is. Don't make it more than what it is.
yeah, and that's why I will say, like, that's why I lean a little bit more towards DC. They managed to handle the darker things a
Yeah.
little bit better than what we've seen from Marvel. Like, they have good
Like
dark stories, but DC handles them
JJ,
better.
was it JJ Abrams?
Abrams, yes,
He was
yeah,
supposed he supposedly, last thing I read, was supposed to direct Justice League Dark.
might still be in the pipe works if I'm not mistaken. But as if anything, they're probably just working on script and pre-production with COVID and all that. So that's the last
Yeah.
I heard too.
But it's all about money, man, because they did the Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
First it was a Birds of Prey, then it was Harley Quinn and the Birds of, that movie was
Okay. Okay.
ass.
Well, okay, so it was Birds of Prey or the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, but because that wasn't doing well, they said, "Oh, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey." Yeah, with that was them trying to give the Harley Quinn spinoff, and people were like, "Well, I think what people wanted was Gotham City Sirens with her, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy." But I figured, well, let's focus on Harley now before we find our definitive ones. That was, well, from what I read, that was kind of their safe bet in the sense of something, because around the same time, Joker was there. And they're like, well, that's kind of the one where we're taking the risk. And look what happens. What was the more successful film? Which
Joker.
I will say, it's a bit of a flex, but you could see my silhouette at the end because I actually was an extra on one of the night shoots.
Nice.
Yeah, I posted on my Instagram, and I do like this weird hand motion just to kind of make myself stand out. But I was like, oh my god, you could see my hair, and I was wearing that. But yeah, no, that was definitely an experience right there. The fact that I managed to get in one of the night shoots in Newark, because they shot 2 nights in Jersey City and about 3 nights or 2 nights in Newark. So
Yeah, I remember that. I remember talking to you about that.
yep. So, but in regards to what you said when it comes to a business, yes, regardless, movies are a business. It's just the fact, like, okay, and what was it? I think it was the fact that people are often wondering, like, oh, why is it that Marvel is the way it is, or how come these movies are the way they are? Well, at the end of the day, of making a movie should be a combination of art and business. Try to do something new and inventive, but make people come to watch your stuff. And same thing with
Yeah, you know
television.
what? You know what? I want a Batman movie that they don't fuck his house up.
What was that?
They fuck his house up. They find out who's his identity. And every fucking movie they fucking tend to do that.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you think with the new one? Because from what all it appears to be, that's like going to be a detective movie in the style of that movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
That's what I love about the fucking movie. Not just he's kicking ass. It's Batman at his best.
Yeah, I think
He's
it's year 2, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, early 20s, still not full capable. He's enraged.
Yep.
And detective, the way that trailer was like, usually the trailers have nothing to do with the when you go to see the fucking movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. You realize that sometimes.
Sometimes there will be stuff that is from the trailers in the films, but you have to remember they were filming this right before COVID hit, and then they had to put together something with what footage they had.
So, that scene, they're breaking him in, and everybody's looking at him, and he's detective.
Yeah.
It's that's what the fuck I love. I think they're gonna do. Or the story was the Long Halloween or something like that.
Took inspiration from that. The main storyline is him hunting the Riddler, who's a serial killer in this film, and taking on the Penguin, who is, the mobster that he is.
Yeah, which is him in the beginning. right?
Yep.
And it's fascinating because this is Batman. Batman is not throughout the years or these past years they may see Batman as this fucking guy who just beats people up. I mean, he is that. I'm not gonna lie, but he got famous and DC was created Detective Comics.
Yep.
This is because of this gentleman here,
Yep.
detective.
And if anyone has played, let's say, the Arkham games, a lot of the gameplay is detective work. So they implemented that there, and I think there's like maybe a handful of occasions in the
Yeah,
movies.
that's why the games are so good.
Yeah. So
That's why
you know,
you're figuring it out, and it takes you quite some time to fucking figure it out.
yeah. So they knowing the director and how he's been pushing the fact that this is going to be the detective movie. It's like yes. Now we have audiences of people who want to see that. Like again, we had came from people just wanting to see superheroes fly or superheroes kick ass and the popular characters. No, they want more in depth. People want to kind of be a little bit challenged and to really be invested in that level.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't a big fan of what's his name, Robert Pattinson,
Pattinson, yeah,
because of Twilight. I was never a big fan, but then I started watching like Water for Elephants,
yeah,
and he did this movie City of Z.
yes.
With the guy from Sons of Anarchy, Charlie something,
Hunnam, yeah.
and these other like artsy movies. He's a really good actor.
And that is kind of like obviously the detractors are like, well, he did Twilight. Like, yeah, he did Twilight. Have you seen the actual other work where he shows that he's an actor? When he was announced, my only thing was, what is the angle they're going to do as Batman, and what is going to be the tone? Because that is going to have to utilize his acting ability. So it's kind of the same thing with Ben Affleck. Is like
Yeah,
when he was,
they killed he wasn't bad in Daredevil, but it's like
it just didn't seem
the
like
movie,
that.
like you had dancing at one point, right?
All I remember about the dancing was he was dancing with Jennifer Garner in a ball or some shit.
Yeah, like why? No. There's this episode. There's this scene. They're in the park.
Oh, the fight thing. Yeah.
That was a fight. I was like they were dancing.
Well, it was like the whole like, oh, well, they're both martial artists, so they're gonna try to one up each other. Like it was like, yeah,
Bullshit.
hey, let's see. The director did that movie, and then he did the first Ghost Rider. I think it shows like that man really didn't know what to do.
Well, they were still they were still in the trying stages.
Yeah, it was like basically because you figured Daredevil was supposed to be the more hardened of the Marvel characters, but again, they tried to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, try to piece this, try to piece it. So it's like they didn't know. That was like the trying to figure out what to do. So, but
yeah.
Anyways,
but Batman, when Snyder first posted that suit, like the Broderick suit, with Ben Affleck, I was sold because I am such a fan of Frank Miller's Batman.
Yeah.
Like it's him, then it's Jason Todd Red Hood,
yes.
And then Batman animated series.
Yep.
That's my my order. You get what I'm saying? And he had me at buffed.
Anyway, so
yeah, man, we've been on for a while, right?
Yeah, we kind of went from obviously talking about the stuff and then saying like, look, when it comes to stuff of being inspired by, here's an example: the fact that something as long as it being comic books is creative and inspiring enough for people like me and Dio to say like, look, things like this happen because people were inspired, they were creative, and it drives us to want to do something of that nature in any form, like with say like the t-shirt business or the podcast, the fact that we could talk about stuff like this. Yeah. That is,
I think it's healthy, it's healthy to have a conversation in which two-party they have, and they're willing to hear, they're willing to not be wrong or right, but also willing to hear what the other person, has to say.
Yeah, and if there is like any type of disagreement or anything you want to
Yeah.
talk about it ethically. Don't be screaming like,
or just
say,
all right,
yeah,
educate me. Why am I wrong?
exactly.
And as you educate me, I'm doing my part to understand your point of view.
Yeah, so if
And if
more
you
people,
can't, hey, agree to disagree. You know, I mean,
exactly, just don't be snarling saying, well, you're wrong because this is, and it's like, cut that.
yeah,
That's not how actual people roll. If you want to be
no,
that way, take it somewhere else.
yeah.
Yep. So,
So where can we find you?
well, my main Instagram unfortunately is private because I got too many people that I don't like who want to freaking do things. I'll get more to that off channel.
All right.
But going forward, let me just pull up what the things are for the two Instagram accounts that I have. One is for the Movie Confessions podcast, and the other one, as of time, hopefully we'll have more detail to it, which is the Dark Mind page. The Movie Confessions podcast is movie 2_lines confessions on Instagram. And as for Dark Mind, it is all just because it was the first thing I had as a title, Dark Mind Entertainment. It is only just a random backdrop of something, but hopefully by the time this comes up and things start moving, you'll see the official logo that I've been coaxing my mom, who is an artist, to draw for me. I've been asking her to do this for years, and now she's like, okay, I'll draw for you. Yeah, so she's drawing a custom thing for me. You will see it by then, but it is Dark Mind Entertainment. That is the page.
Dark Mind Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook.
Well, Instagram. Well, Dark Mind Entertainment on Instagram. Yes. Facebook, I gotta double check because I don't know if I changed to something else, but hopefully
by the time this comes out in the edited section on YouTube, I should have the full information. I'll put it right below, and people can check you out.
And as always, we'll do our best to cross market because let's face it, this is good stuff we talked about, and I'm pretty sure more good stuff from his other. Well, yes, he says one. I'm pretty sure he'll bring more people on, and they'll talk. So.
Well, Ben, thank you for joining us today. This has been another episode of DioTalk. I'm Dio, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everyone. Yes.